So I don't tend to go on Netflix so much anymore because I got rid of my subscription and I've been trying to really cut down on the amount of time that I interact with streaming platforms. I've been pretty successful in reducing that time. But I'm on Netflix for the first time in a while, or actually just scrolling through it for the first time in a while, and it's really interesting the way they do these mobile games. And the TV show Too Hot to Handle has two simulation-based mobile apps, like just like video games, like cartoon characters of these, like, you know, just attractive couples, but they're like cartoons, like realistic cartoons. And it makes me think that a lot of people who don't think they have addictions or weird patterns probably have addiction through some aspect of how they use some technology. It's very hard not to these days. But just knowing how many billions of people use technology, and I know I sound like ancient saying these things as in like technology, but just think about it, like these simulation games and like all the stuff that's like interactive pornography, just given how many people are deeply addicted to and obsessed with porn. All of the games, and I mean, obviously that extends now to the insanity of like VR and all of that. But I know from being just like deeply entrenched in watching the same thing, or I've never really liked games, video games. I mean, I liked it a little bit by proxy growing up, but that's not my niche. I'm just saying, I know if you think about a developing young boy's brain, even back in the early 2000s, you already had people, gamers, getting deeply addicted to video gaming. So even if it's not pornographic in nature, you have all, you know, types of age ranges. I mean, really, we could link in infancy with how a lot of parents are choosing not to parent as actively by the introduction of screens at a very young age. So I'm just thinking about this tonight as I look at all the insane content that's available, and I maintain all the time, as many people know, that the least amount of interaction with like all of it, the streaming platforms and the chaos of social media, all of it is to be avoided. Like, I mean, I know that people have livelihoods and like they find things fascinating and like entertainment. It's just the shadow side and the bright side. Like, I think, to be fair, in a lot of cases, a lot of people out there are misusing a lot of things, right? Like food, overeating it, or I don't know, making poor choices. Like, it's like the choices that we make with our free will, right? We don't have to be addicted or glued to our screens, but a lot of people are. It's very hard not to be, though, is my point. This is where kind of the the amount of stuff that we're bombarded with gets crazy, and you can see into different conspiracy holes rather easily. And I'm getting really excited about the thought of going into all this breakdown in the American Dream in the Barbie movie, because I've been waiting for Barbie to come out so I can watch it again and just run through it while I'm watching it and record that way, and then add in all of my, my screen grabs and all this stuff. So it's gonna be really good. It might have to be 2 parts based on how long it takes me to kind of run through things. Yeah. So again, with the technology and like the immersion of it into life, of course, we can think about being connected people in a future where it's well used and appreciated and like, neutral, somehow more morally neutral. That applies to the artificial intelligence as well, which is, essentially it's artificial intelligence, but it's like its own its own entity, and there's so much that goes into understanding that. And I just keep talking about how things are moving at warp speed right now in this eclipse passage, because we experience passage of time as this thing day by day, moment by moment. But when you think about on the quantum level what is happening as we humans who are alive in the 3D at this like latitude and longitude right now in the time-space quilt are experiencing it as, it's like what it really looks like is a very rapid expansion in the amount of energy that's flowing through this reality. And so everything within it has to filter through that expansion as well, on the micro, on the cellular, on the nano, on the atomic, and the macro. It's just this great big expansion. And then the bounds of the reality that you're looking at, they kind of cease to exist, because it's like, this is like the planetary clocks, the timelines, the cycles, the lore, the history, the fables, the religion, the science, this big swirling soup, as I always say. This big swirling soup of events that we can look at through the laws and the experiences that bind them all together with the energy movement of everything. And so the time speeding up, sensation is our best way of experiencing this huge influx of rapid expansion. And we need to understand that the way that we treat our bodies and the way that we think and conceive of and process the happening that is this expansion, we have to be just very intuitive with how we choose to do that. Like, I'm in bed, it's 7 p.m. I must be in bed right now. And I'm talking about this, and I was pulling up Netflix to watch a show, and now I'm like, probably not the right thing to do for my energy right now. It's so hard for us to break out of, and then we're like, we get a lot of people who feel trapped, and I certainly feel that way because of thinking about sugar cookies and placing the cookie cutters, and then having this negative space and positive space, and you roll up the scraps of dough and you roll it out again with a rolling pin, and you do another round of cookies. It's like these scraps of time in my schedule that are left over after I attend to everything that I need to do, and these scraps in my budget that are left over after I attend to the things that I need to do, or forget to, and all these different things. It's like, what's left over is not enough. And it's like, what is the issue here? Because everybody has the same amount of hours in every day. And that's why I deleted streaming platforms and unfollowed mass amounts of just like celebrity accounts on Instagram. All, I like certain ones that there's no justification for my preferences, because it's so intuitive when it comes to me and what I want to plug into and what I don't. And so there are certain, maybe a person could understand. It's just the most distracting and garbage, I find. Like certain, well, I'm not going to go in that direction, but I was talking about like the uses of time, and like I didn't even realize how distracting it was for me, because even if I was doing other things and being productive or vacuuming, whatever it may be around the household, if I had a show on in the background, that was still kind of contributing to the experience, and it was something that I considered an activity. And there's so much that I do, or used to more, still do, still working on certain things, that if I were to just really log the usages of my time and my energy and my thoughts, so much of it isn't feeding how I want to live and what I want to do. If I were to make a aspirational log of events day to day, what would I be doing? What would I be thinking when I was doing it? How would I be feeling? I need to bridge the gap somehow here, and I believe we have the chance to do it as a quantum leap, because this type of resonance, or rather lack of resonance, with so many things in the world, so many things in our own lives, it's literally shaking us to our core, asking us to think about it this way and be like, it's okay to not want certain things, but what do you want? Because we're always conjuring, in a sense, through our attitudes and the way we think and the way we spend our time, all of it. That's why it's like, prayer or not, spiritual or not, it's about the quantum physics of engaging in the energetic reality, like with the thought, the emotion, what this means for the brain, what this means for the body, the soul. It's as maddening as it is simple, because there's such big structures, such immovable forces, but that's when we realize, it's all the same weight, density. There's so much that's shrouded in illusion. We value things in a very prescribed manner. And once we realize that, we can unplug from these things that don't serve us. And I'm just, I'm at this juncture where I'm like, I need to use my time differently, period. So much of it differently. And I can do this. But then another day goes by and I'm like, I can do it better. And I keep trying. And I'm I'm really coinciding with this collective frustration that I feel on a day-to-day basis that I know does not pertain to me, and then I've got my own inner dial and I'm working with my own frustrations, and I tend to understand the correlation between my inner world and the collective energies. And at this point, with the channel and my channeling and my relaying of information in this format, well, the video format, really, I mean, I don't as much rant personally like this, or without the video component. I don't do that as much because I take the videos and I get it out of my system, and that was the purpose, for me to organize the processing of the energy and deliver it, and then let the doing of that improve the whole system. And I think that it's been happening. And I'm not really talking about the usages of my time as it pertains to my videos, but about my artwork and my approach to so many things. And I always lose my train of thought when I'm like, so if I get it in my head that I'm going to be sharing something or posting something, this didn't used to happen to me, but I've been trying to take a break from it. So now I'm thinking about it again, but excuse me. Basically, it's like I get in my own way when I'm having a free flow of information. If my conscious mind questions if what I'm saying is helpful or not, it derails my channeling 110%. And I don't do it so much on video, but I was in a personal space ranting and talking and forgetting, because that's important to do. I just have to be able to talk freely. That is what people value. And I would too. It's what I value doing. And so when I have these little, sidecar moments, I've said this before, videos from long ago, but I tend to have what I describe as my psychic senses, or my clairvoyance, my clairaudience, all these different coexisting things. There's lots of ways and labels to talk about it, and that includes different mental health labels, all sorts of things. At the end of the day, I talk about it like my dashboards or like parallel lanes of traffic. I know a lot of people relate to this. It's more complicated than just having an active mind, and I've also learned to work with guides and interdimensional beings such as angels and, just my spirit team to organize this process and make it work to my advantage instead of just letting my mind, have the better of me. And that's where I've expanded my spiritual psychic gifts and grown in that way, and partnered with my ability to use them to do what it is that I'm meant to do, which is create things that are healing in nature. I firmly believe that's my mission. I was gifted and blessed with a lot of just things that are available to me, and I intend to use all of them. That's the ideal. I forget who said this quote, and I always say that when I say this quote, so I should probably fix that problem and look it up. But when you are gifted, you don't have something, you have something to give. And so I've always said this, and at a point in my life when I was growing up, it was like, okay, what do you really want to do? Because I just kept saying the same thing from a young age, and the vision's been the same, and the feeling's been the same. But it is the energy of just being able to maximize what I feel from my connection to spirituality and the divine and source and love and the creation energy that flows through this reality. And I've never lost the connection that I had to it as a child, as many of us haven't. But for me, it's profoundly embedded into nature and my relationship to nature, especially because of past life energies that I have with nature spirits as well. But then, because of the same logic, I also feel deeply connected to the stars, which one could consider nature. And then this is also where different kinds of gifts come in for me, but for anybody else when it comes to Akashic integration, because I've got past life energy with scribing, with making so many, like stonework, working with the hands, and then again with past life energy, communicating, being a storyteller, being a teacher, and, lots of ancient kinds of transmutation too on the energetic level. So a lot of this for me has been coming online for 2023. And I've talked about this often, but when we integrate new energy, you could say this happens every single second because time presses on, right? You're always something more than you were just a moment ago, even if it's more tired or over it. You're always something more, ideally more, everything you want to be, right? We have it within us to expand in a favorable way that we intend because we are conscious beings. Not every organism has the same blessing in this reality. Some of them are on less conscious evolvings with their innate coding, their genetic structure, their programming, you could say. This is why I love the fact that we can all just kind of chill out and be like, yeah, simulation theory, God, religions, all of this with the Jesus and the Satan, and the way the celebrities are just making a big joke out of it, because yes, they are embodying that energy. They're not doing it. It's very blatant. At this point, you can't say it's just a coincidence. I've got so many people I know who'd be like, it's just creative artists being artists. I'm like, repeatedly only doused in blood wearing horns, because I see a pattern. I know. Everybody knows that already. That's old news. My point is, it's frustrating when people just won't admit it, but what's more important is that those two are just labels. That's why it's continued to be masqueraded with such apparency, because it's like, that's not a threat to the sanctity of the operation whatsoever. There's something much deeper. And all of the conspiracy and all of the crap online is never going to feed into directly that. Yeah, there's a lot of small items of truth and seeds out there, but it's very, very, very misconstrued. And what people don't understand on a massive scale is that that's the majority of the stuff. The majority of the stuff is all contorted. And there's a much deeper truth where every single sub-battle and masked layer within the machine is designed to ask you to focus on it and create a stance with it and engage with it. And that's what people talk about when they say unplugging from the matrix. You don't have a stance in these things, not because you're uncompassionate, but when you're thinking about spiritual perspective and really being like conscious and doing a deep meditation on your own existence, just philosophy and existential meaning, you take a broader perspective that does not need to side with certain these bipartisan, like, think about all this, think about the timing of the elections, think about, and you have to, people don't like to do this, but you have to weave together celebrity happenings and scripts with athletic scripts, with news and politics and global events, with astrology. Like, I mean, you don't have to do anything, frankly. But if you're going to be fair, if you're going to be accurate, I see it as my civic duty and just something that I feel like I have access to, as many of us do. You weave together as much as you possibly can, because only then, like a judge, right? Nobody's God. Nobody's a cosmic judge. That's why we have some type of other, system of beings and guides that we can connect to. You do. And a lot of the ones that are helping you specifically are not the ones that are going to help anybody else. That's personal. But there is, other energy matrices that you can grow to expand, like certain goddess frequency channels or different archangels, or, your ancestors, again, they support other beings in your lineage. So it's thinking of layers of a chord, different notes in a strummed chord. The energy matrices being similar, they vibrate on different levels, and so to key into multiple ones at once, this is kind of a beautiful metaphor for simultaneity and not needing to be like, you're on a vibration and an understanding of reality and things at a level that is higher than just the 3D perception of all of it. And I know it's just such a watered down availability of language to say it that way. And so I'll just share this because I've been thinking about it deeply for the past 2 days, and it's going to happen anyway for the same viewership that might, hear this recording. So what I'm going to do is set up a new space in my studio, and I'm going to be talking more freely about certain things like this without the cards, because I've always struggled to touch on certain things. I would much rather process the energy and keep my opinions to myself. And I will talk about Israel right now, the Palestinian conflict and all of these things, Hamas. Everybody in America, whenever something like this happens, takes to Twitter and has an opinion and a hot take. And we are throwing, missiles back and forth as well now. And I know that there was it was a unanimous decision in the Senate yesterday or whenever. All of these things, it throws chaos into our order when we have a lot that we can contribute energetically that does not occur in this fear loop, because people, especially the masculine collective, when it comes to safety and the healing and the purging that the masculine collective energies have been doing throughout the summer. I mean, I mentioned it back in the solstice early part of the energetic cycle that we closed. in the earlier months of summer. It's continued though, and this is why it's going to be really important to listen to the Barbie American Dream breakdown of stuff video that I do, because it's going to have to do with masculinity and archetypal patterns in the world, in contemporary issues, and then throughout history, how we've gotten here, what it means, how I can, to the best of my ability, link together another way of looking at so many different things, touching on, if necessary, and not fully avoiding conspiracy theories that exist, because at this point it's part of the conversation. I care not if people consider me a conspiracy theorist anymore, just because when you put those two words together, yeah, that's fine. Look up the definitions for both of them. Yeah, I am that. But when we talk about demonizing people on many, many layers, right? It's all tightly folded up origami. Everybody has something bad to say about some party. And it's, at the end of the day, I pray to be kind, compassionate, supportive to the people in my life, protective of my own energy, responsible, a healing, just active agent in the world who is creating more positive than I do harm, and learning from my mistakes and trying to be a good link in the global community, even though I don't have a hot take about Israel, because I see my part in what's going on with humanity as not existing in these things. And people will say, you're creating fear, you're threatening the minds and the sanctity of democracy and the importance of the spread of information when you entertain other ideas. And I get it, because there's a lot of quote unquote other ideas that are completely bogus and problematic, but so are the ideas and the facts and the narratives that exist with the layers of transparency, with all different kinds of reporting sources and the deeper dysfunction, and how it all has its very Wizard of Oz, man behind the curtain. It's an energy that is designed and working through the collective. Yes, through individuals, but this is one of the issues. The majority of a lot of human individuals on Earth have no idea that they're feeding a machine that's not good, right? Or that even exists, or that is connected. And a lot of people, this is where you have to just believe in the good of humanity and the timing of how things are unfolding throughout the course of human history right now. Because people can only work with the amount of knowledge that they have, and then they exercise their free will. And it's our birthright to do that. It's our birthright to do that. And we have to be able to support other people in doing that, and ourselves in doing that, and figuring out why people are so incredibly damaged and contorted into not doing that in a way that doesn't harm other people. There's collective traumas, there's these long histories, there's polarity traumas to the energies that exist within the kind of beings that we are. And there's polarities, right? Think about us as it in the spiritual sense. When people hear these words and us talking about feminine energy, masculine energy, polarity, it doesn't sound mechanical or scientific, but I believe that it is in many ways, because we are of a design. We do require power to function, and we do possess polarities, and it is very abstract to think about that outside of something that you can draw a diagram of, like cellular structures and electrons, the nucleus, the structures of the solar system. But it's just that this is the type of field where why wouldn't we have well-published studies and understandings of the energy field of the human body? Why wouldn't we have? Do you see how it's like that whole category? It's like New Age. I think that, like with anything, there's different people in the spiritual community for different decades and different poster children, maybe like industry plants, you could call them, who kind of turned off large parts of the public to certain ideas and things on purpose. Because if we're a forward-thinking first world, technologically advanced society whose government supports what all, safety of people, peace, protection, freedom of speech, environmental protection, all these different things. The interests of the people, like what, right? People care about certain things right now, and we can talk about that all day, but if we are advanced in the way that we consider ourselves in the American country, then why don't we have advanced technological solutions for the issues on the table? I guarantee you that we have the technology. We have the money. We in the world with the players that possess these funds, okay? There is the money and the technology to have so many cures rapidly for so many things. For places around the world not having, their clean water, for places not having access to healthcare or solutions, food, free energy, and all of this. And it's like, people are like, we're working on it. I go to my 9 to 5 because I'm a very small link in the bigger chain that's working on it. And it's like, there's a lot of things that get drip fed throughout society and technology and all these different things. And there's so many different kinds of higher up levels of clearance and understanding for so many different kinds of operations globally. Like, obviously, that's not a conspiracy. There's so many different companies and things happening in all different kinds of fields, and there's levels of clearance for what goes on with all of those operations. And you do have people that are like, we're working on it, and they've devoted, decades or years of their lives to advancing something, but there's a lot of things that never come out about people who have brilliant ideas, and people who get silenced, and people who get bought out, and people who see things, and people who get murdered, and all. It's, it's the stuff of movies, but you always have to remember that what you see in the movies is part of the machine that keeps us silent. And it's less sinister than you think, because there's also a lot of what you could consider glitches or synchronicities in the same machine, but they support a beautiful reflection of the collective psyche. There is kind of an AI quality to the darkness and the light, and the beast that is raging on in the form of duality and the current state of the world. It's not all bad, but we do have to talk about and acknowledge the parts that people don't want to have to acknowledge as bad. And it's also very hard to wrap our head around when we come at it from such a multi-pronged approach. But that's what my work is and my interest. And I believe that we just have to believe in the good that we can conjure within our own heart, because other people, all other humans, can try to do that within their own hearts. And when we force and push people to try to do things, force is never the way. We can be like leaders and embodied, healed people who have power and say, but we don't force other people to do other things than what is their personal agenda with the amount of knowledge that they possess. And I mean, I just hear people, email me, right? As with anything. It's not my job to defend all the rabbit holes that split off of any given idea, but I will answer to your rabbit holes if certain things that I say spawn little fireworks of parallel thoughts that you'd like clarification on, or that could help us have an even more exciting debate about something that's on your mind. I would like to be able to have dialogue style posts eventually, but I believe that's kind of far off. But just to wrap up, consider that a teaser of the Barbie whole breakdown. I really, really want to make it one of the finest pieces of, creation that I've ever done in this manner, if not the penultimate. And please keep in mind, I wouldn't say any type of experience with animating or documenting like film. I use very basic iMovie on my iPhone. I used to do it on my computer, but my computer's so damn slow. And I just do it on my phone, and I try to drop in clips and yada yada. But I have been doing things like that for years and years, all different kinds of personal videos, and going even back to like 2005. Still iMovie. Really, I discovered it and had access to it at a very young age comparatively to, things hitting mainstream and people. But I know a lot of like the photo booth and how a lot of younger millennials have memories of that, starting in grade school and stuff and all that. But with that, I always made like strange creations. And I also made in 2019 what I called a film memoir, but really it was just footage, recordings, voice memos, audio clips, paintings, all sorts of crap. Well, all sorts of artwork and memories from my time when I was in school, because I had a very hard time during the 7 years that I was trying to graduate and had a lot of experiences. And it's a story worth sharing, but I've always been very self-critical about the tone and the voice that I chose to use to illustrate it, because I find it very self-indulgent, and I don't think it reflects who I am today. So for that reason, it's not publicly viewable. If you want to watch it, it gives you a very good look of who I used to be, and I'm not ashamed of that, but I wouldn't want it to be out there to be misconstrued, because I see fault with it at this point, and how I phrase and choose to view certain things and certain problems, because I've grown. But it's important that even then I was trying to kind of frame everything through a healing lens and be like, this is what I've gained throughout all of my struggles. And I'm still doing that, but I just have a different approach to doing it. I actually submitted it to Sundance Film Festival, which is laughable when you think about it in kind of this this sad way, because I feel like that was very childish, because Sundance is such a high level thing, and I made it on iMovie in like a few weeks, but the footage is from years, but I put it together in a few weeks, and I know it's powerful. I do, but that's not the point. I'm saying all this just to let everybody know that I'm dedicated to and committed to making the Barbie thing exceed even my most finished masterpiece to date, which could be considered that. So I do have links to view it. If you're interested, you're welcome. And I'll send you the link. You can email me. Maybe at some point I'll make excerpts from it available, but it's really not part of this channel. So, then the last conclusory thought was about how I'm going to redo my studio so that I'm not always just doing readings. I really want to be able to create paintings and artwork when I'm channeling, because I can talk about things that are very different from what I'm choosing to paint. And originally, when I conceived of the idea for how I was going to start with this channel, it just came from the fact that instead of just verbally describing what I'm seeing, I was more committed to making diagrams and scribbling it out, which I think is really helpful for people. And I've dabbled with taking time lapses of like my iPad when I'm like drawing and, doing screen grabs that I voice over. There's just so many different ways available to try to make the information the best that it can be for the people that I'm trying to serve and educate, really. But it's also for fun. Like, I like doing all this. It's just a lot to try to think about, because then I'm like, okay, well, who is my target audience? And I'm like, I just want to help everybody. I would want to, and I've said this in the past, I'd want for any single one of my family members to be able to listen to this and be like, yep, that's her. She's living in her truth, and we're not, disappointed in her, right? Because I've had these different chapters of my life where I have expressed creativity and thoughts and opinions, but had so much healing to do, and I want to be responsible, and I want to be a good role model who isn't kind of stricken with certain, connotations or problems with being a young woman on the internet, which I've obviously been for a long time now. A lot of us are young women on the internet, but there's lots of different ways to do that and be that. And then aside from being a young woman on the internet, just somebody who would like to share their information and their voice, because I care so much about the stuff that I talk about because of how I see the world. I do kind of have this personal stake in it where I want for it to be good, right? I want to be able to translate things in a creative way, but also a meaningful way for people who are struggling with issues in their own life or the collective level. And that's when my guides bring me full circle, and they're like, just relax into the creative essence of it, not to alleviate yourself of responsibility, because creators do have a responsibility. I think about that song Stan featuring Dido by Eminem. And in one of the verses, when Stan is finally replying, he's like, I talk about insert self-harm terminology as a joke. And Stan in the letter to Eminem was saying, you talk about cutting your wrists too. I do that sometimes. And it's kind of insane because there is Eminem compounding the problem even more by being like, I'm acknowledging it. I have a big influence on people, but I'm still putting it out in the form of this music that, like, somebody like me, I know that song came out a long time ago, but I was listening to it yesterday, and it's like that still has conditioning influence over people. So whether or not you're a musical artist, a visual artist, people have responsibility when they contribute something to the world, and it's not just for famous people. I think that everybody should intend to connect with people who are trying to do positive things on platforms and support positive interests and the spreading of positive information. Because, I mean, I said conclusory thought, and here we go. It's 10 more minutes, but think about how closed off we've been made to be from one another. Just on the phones, not acknowledging people as much in person. People very intentionally will close off their body language from other people when you're in public space just to indicate that you don't want interaction. And there's so many reasons for why that is, and there's so many justified reasons, and the world is unkind, but also beautiful. I think about a wonderful artist who I admire and follow on Instagram. Her name is Pi Herring. She's currently on an artist residency in Ghana. She paints from life, and it's figurative, and it's exquisite. It's technically gorgeous. She's amazing, and she travels the world, and she's somewhat nomadic, and she's painting beautiful portraits, and she's interacting with the community, and she's traveling in this really modest but impactful way, because she's not, just lying on a beach posting bikini selfies. And I'm not saying there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but it's what a lot of people choose to consume through, like, the influencer stuff with what's available to follow and connect with on the internet. And the children, same, I hate to sound like this, but the same children you would see in an advertisement like Donate Now, the children are starving. I'm not saying this just because they're Black children, but because, there's kind of a more primitive structure as far as the buildings and the schoolrooms, and like little bits of hay and dust and running around barefoot, right? It's not the developed country that we have here. And there's all these portrayals of children and villages and, communities that are located far beyond our ability to see it, most people's ability to see it firsthand, except for through the lens of others. And when you only see it through the lens of the hugest corporations and information providers, you fail to see a vantage point like this beautiful artist, and the kids are laughing and they're playing. And it doesn't mean they don't have struggle like anybody else. But what we fail to realize on an absolute regular basis is that there's always going to be suffering in this world and in this realm and troubles. But there's also always going to be people all over the globe laughing, smiling, miracles happening, hugs being given, received, kisses, love, babies being born, people having victories, just the sweetest moments of anonymous kindness between two hearts on a day-to-day basis. Yes, there's gun violence every single second that passes by. Yes, there's death every single second that passes by. There's so much happening, and that includes the positive. And so I just implore everybody to be more discerning than you ever have with what you choose to experience and how you soak it in and how you see this great titanic splitting of the collective energies that is taking place, what it's doing to people's mental states, how long it's been burning and coming on for, the rate at which it's expanded. Really, really the honest assessment of how things stand for humanity right now and what the possible explanations of all of this is. I mean, regardless of what you believe in, it's important to, return to the self and try to show yourself some love. Be in the present moment and try to remind yourself, because everything springs forth. It can go on a rant like that, but it does come back to the self and one's own ability. This is where people get into these soul-crushing, dark nights of the soul with spirituality, where it's like, it's so breaking sometimes, these massive things. But when you move through a lot of the density and you acclimate, you hold space, and you realize that can't believe, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, to insert such a parable, not parable. It is the fortification of things you choose. I mean, it's many levels, right? Brain connections, habits, patterns, synapses, what you choose to reinforce. Psychologically, what you choose to deprogram and unlearn. This is where dialectical behavioral therapy comes in from psychology. Healing as far as psychotherapy. Like, I really hope most of the time, and I never say stuff like this because I try to be, humble within myself, as I think anybody should. I've really struggled with that too in the past, like feeling like I don't know how good I am, and oscillating between being just insecure but very egotistical, right, and forceful and showy, but then being just like devastatingly like it doesn't matter and I shouldn't try. I think a lot of creative types deal with that. But my point is, I never want to talk about how much I know through experience, but also through the actual study of psychology, psychotherapy, philosophy, and my own self-education on quantum physics. I can't say that I've ever taken any classes, but I do have education in a lot of things where I always try to. It's one of the gifts of being a channel, is that I don't have to try to, but my work is linking together and doing the knitting. When I channel even very high level, hard to articulate spiritual concepts, I have the blessing of being able to pass them through the filters of, does this check an academically acceptable understanding of truth with everything that I know? I'm not trying to pass things off, or I'm not trying to. I think about people who have been, in my experience, embodying of this very resistant way to open up or, expand through cognitive dissonance to hold multiple points of view and what that looks like and what it feels like. And I think a lot of people are like, it's just that, unproven woo-woo. It's not academic. There's no, data or science that supports it. And I'm all about data and science. I'm all about trying to go into the layers of the truth. I'm just really over seeing highly colorized, saturated pictures of nebulas and being like, here's an update from space. This is what we're doing at NASA. Hope you like it. Like, it just does not make sense to me, given everything that we know about everything, that we are not, a little bit more advanced, the leading global advancements in health, in science, in energy, and all of these things, that we're not further along. Because the people are, right? There's this resonance that lives within all of us where this is the waking up of it. You become attuned to your personal power, and it's been breaking down the other forces of power that have. I go back to when I was talking about, like, this is why they laugh when they wear the devil horns, because being like, it's you got to pick up, it's time to pick up the Bible, it's the revelation, it's the rapture. It's like, they don't care if you take that route, not because Jesus isn't powerful and Jesus isn't real. I'm not saying that. I believe in Jesus, and I love Jesus, and I pray to Jesus Christ. You have to say both, Jesus Christ, because you'll find that people who do not want to incorporate that energy and feed into lower vibrational matrices won't say Jesus Christ together. Really, watch movies, look at it, think about how it's said and used. It will be the full name if it's used almost equivalent to a swear word through Hollywood. But then it will just be when they talk about faith or something, like only Christ or only Jesus, but say Jesus Christ. That is an energy. There's a harmonic signature in that full phrase. But I digress through this because my point is that's an ascended master energy, and there's a lot of convolution. Think about all the waging wars about religion throughout all space and time in human history ever, right? There has been things burned, rewritten, misconstrued. There are collective woundings. We've all heard horror stories about corrupted churches and whatnot. So there's good and bad to all of this. You're allowed to still believe that that's the saving grace. The light of Jesus is the saving grace of all issues on earth right now. Please do pray to Jesus Christ and read the Bible and try to know that when you use your discernment and the love of God that you connect to, it is just that, and use that discernment to elevate beyond, if I hope that people don't take offense to me saying this, but if Jesus were alive today, he would be able to speak in an ascended way that helps us understand all of these waging wars through hate and fear on earth. And it wouldn't be this strict verbatim translation of what a lot of people use as ammunition in different debates around Christianity and Catholicism and all different kinds of things. I truly believe that the truth of what can make sense of the state of the world right now is not something that anybody would ever even imagine. It's so far beyond the public comprehension, and it's been controlled and tightly sealed, and it exists on this level that is magical. It is incredibly high tech. It does harness like otherworldly technology and magic, right? I don't believe necessarily, like I believe the ancients had it, right? But in some ways it was never lost. I don't want to even, extraterrestrials are involved. Yeah, it all is. We're just in a chapter of humanity where things got filtered down, funneled in, and we were told as we came up as these newly branded kinds of humans that we, industrial revolution, all these things. We're entering this golden age for what it means to be an American and all this stuff, right? And we do not want to get to a point where it's too late to kind of come back and heal from certain things where there is a lot of probabilities in the quantum space. And when you have certain dreams that are wildly apocalyptic or dark nightmares about humanity, say, I release it. I don't affirm it. Don't let it haunt you. Process it, move it along. A lot of people are having these kinds of things like psychic downloads come into their subconscious, attach to them at night. You're very vulnerable in your dream space. Make sure to say, before you go to bed, something along the lines of, I do not permit any energy outside of myself, except for that, whatever you permit. It could be Jesus Christ. It could be any energy that is aligned with your highest good, saints and ancestors, people who have passed on who you love, whatever you believe in or nothing at all. You could just pray for, the energy of peace to protect you. And nothing else. Because we default in, just like the blind accepting of terms and conditions, we default into not protecting ourselves right now to a lot of things. I believe that we're kind of, on a legal level, slipping away with our rights to understand how we are enclosing ourselves in as humans. And so, there's a lot of negative probabilities, but we need to focus on the positive ones as well and understand that it's not this doom thing. I actually, by the grace of every single human seeing into a higher probability for more and more continuous seconds at a time, that's it. That's all we need. It's like when someone says, hey, just donate $1. If everybody did that, we'd have $1 million. Just give me 1 second of your time. I want to make the most amazing rendition of the I Want You, Uncle Sam poster, but it's me. And I am asking you once again. It's like the Bernie Sanders mitten one too. But it's me. And I've got, the most amazing painted aura. Yeah, okay, done. Self-portrait. Put a pin in it. I'll do that. That's important. I'll make that. That would be funny, but also honest. Okay. Political contribution in the art world. Get ready, world. Here's my poster. Just get them printed up or, pay for a city billboard. Not now. Let's think about where we put our money and our time. I'm somewhat kidding. I like to keep it light and fluffy, but at the same time, I love those types of ideas because it's insane, but it's like, why not? And I get that I didn't fully share the vision, right? But I saw myself kind of bedecked in this psychedelic attire, but I was very clearly alluding to and mimicking the Uncle Sam "I Want You" poster, right? Just sinking into this hysteria of everything that is the world today, and oh my gosh, I can't wait to do the Barbie. The Barbie, it's just ridiculous. I'm very excited. I'm at the mercy of my own energy and what's available to me and how my life has been going, and needless to say, it's been absolutely so intense. But I'm an eternal optimist. It does not mean that I do not have deep passages of uncertainty or intensity. I'm just at the forefront of my own spiritual evolution and growth as a human too, you know. There's a lot of things that I'm insecure about that I will not ever talk about on the channel because that's not where, that's private, that's personal. I don't want to, it's not the purpose of me doing this, but I just want to remind people that it's like, we're all real people and you can be deeply invested in trying to uplift yourself, trying to uplift others without being perfect or having this or having that or do, I'm not like, yeah, all right. So, I'm just saying, I'm excited to make that because I believe in the power of being able to execute it properly, what it can do to help people understand things. I believe in the beauty of it. It was 50-50 when I looked up at the timestamp for the first time since I've recorded this. I mean, that's not true. I looked up at 36 minutes, but didn't mention it. I'm seeing 50-50 as a synchronicity around 10 being endings and big closeouts and this huge stuff going on in the world and everything that I've ever talked about on this channel forever and how I believe I'm meant to talk and using the project as a vehicle for a lot of energetic transmissions as well. Delivering my voice, my intention, everything with the most benefit possible that I can imbue into something for people, for anybody. But I got off on that whole tangent. What I was going to say is, it's like when I was laughing about like I implore you, I want you to not donate $1. If everybody did it, we'd have $1 million, but donate 1 second of every day. If everybody gave 1 second of every day, 1 minute, come on, be generous, 1 minute of every day to envisioning what if, the world wasn't so bleak. And when you pan through the Midwest of America, there's oil plants and all this tacky crap and people looking unwell and all this sadness and drug addicts and homelessness, and then sure, pan through the rest of the world and the countries. What if it wasn't like this, right? The doom and gloom. What if it was more like the stuff that isn't captured and documented and promoted? Like all of the peaceful, magnificent things that so many good hearts and spirits and minds around the world are working to do. What if it was more like that? I'm not saying that that's, that ignores all of the pain, but I'm saying we are manifesting more of that. Some people don't even some people don't even believe that the world is a good place. Some people think we're so far gone and it's all fucked and nothing matters. And there's a lot of reasons why people think that. Not everything, comes down to the problems of society. We do have all these interpersonal dynamics, all these riddles within our own selves, but that is where the fractal comes in, the macro, micro. You don't have to devote your life. You can live alone. But the same concepts around fear and masquerading and polarities and healing and cycles and conditioning, they really do filter into a lot of different corners of how a life can be lived today. And so I try to talk about it from the most zoomed out perspectives that I can have access to, but I'm just saying we can collectively manifest our way into the beautiful reality that a lot of people fear is too far gone or inaccessible or, hey, maybe, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. Nope. That's you giving up your power. That's you manifesting waiting energy. Well, guess what? There's a lot of stuff that's not waiting. And when you're waiting, you're absorbing. And when you're absorbing, there's a lot to be absorbed that is designed to create fear and separation and division. Division from your own body. Division from the like-minded, beautiful people around you. Division from a feeling of safety within your own body, state, home. There's so many things to be absorbed while we're waiting to see if it ends up shaping up. If the great minds of our time fix the issue. You're a great mind. I'm a great mind. And we can talk about a lot of things in the meantime. But I'm not waiting anyway, right? You don't have to wait. On the quantum level, When you start believing and visualizing, that's where the future takes place, in every single person's mind, simultaneously, all the time, all at the same time. So the collective manifestation is both and. It's collective chaos. It's not about fixing on the earth plane. This is where it's like interesting, right? Because people are like, well, will we get there? Won't we get there? What's happening? Blah, blah, blah. Chaos, always. It's always been that way. It always will be. This takes me back to a humbling conversation that I had with my grandfather where I was like, well, we live with unprecedented amounts of certain things, including mental health and all this stuff and obesity and blah, 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 and the screens and blah. And he said, you know what? I'm tired of hearing that you have it worse than we did. Every generation has their own version of that, and it's always true and it's never true. And it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it's about your human morals, your value, and what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. And, all this crap that people pretend, who are tried and true Americans, talking about the Declaration of Independence and all this stuff. What are your values? Are you a good person? A lot of people have other people's referenced work. It can be the Bible. It can be some word at some point written by some man that people cite. And they're like, well, they say this is how to be a good person. And they're right. And they've always been right. And it's like, come on. If it's the founding father, whoever it is, have we ever thought about how drunk they probably were in some tavern writing that with a quill? And I know I'm being reckless and crass, but come on now. Things are meant to be revised. Things are meant to be revised. Things are meant to be revised, and I know that we do that when we talk about democracy and the way that government even evolved. I'm not a dumbass. I get offended, to be honest. I won't say things like this very often, but sometimes people lump me into a category of people who don't know any better when they talk about the structure of why things are the way they are in the world, and I understand. I do. Of course, I'm always open to learning more about the branches of government, but frankly, I don't want to right now. I'm focused on what it is that my passions are guiding me to. And I did learn about it. But the way that curriculum is delivered to not only, at this point, children and what's focused on pre-K through elementary and then beyond that, but at these collegiate levels too, there's curriculums, there's approaches, there's things, there's a lot of, well, let's not go there, all right? My lasting thought, because I do need to end this recording, because I don't know if you've been able to tell, you totally have, my voice is scratchy. I'm going through this huge throat chakra upgrade, and I have been the entire time when I've been just being like, you know what, I'm going to record videos, I'm going to post them. I need to take this time off because I'm like, I'm still me. I still need to be able to have absolutely no holds barred on my own experience, my own focus, my own passion. And it's interesting because I've gotten nothing but positive response from the people who have chosen to interact with me as a result of me doing the YouTube channel. Yet still, I'm so sensitive to energies, collective energies. I even know when there's tons of people, just if there's anybody who's ever known me, I can tell when certain people are thinking about me, and not all the time, but in certain capacities, in certain amounts, feeling dynamics. I mean, I don't have to go into all this, but there is an incredible amount that would threaten to overstimulate me to the point where I would just, either shut down or take to myself to process this very personally. But I'm so motivated to try to help other people and give back. And I get so nervous that people will see this as something other than that. And, there's been iterations of my desire to share throughout my life where I'm like, it has to be, I don't want anything to compromise my message or my earnestness. So I don't want to be, I don't want anything about the way that I look to distract any part of my message or my sincerity, or my silly ass sense of humor. I don't want to, because I can, let that get the better of me. There's so many things and stipulations that I've had for myself to be able to do this the correct way, because I haven't been able to surrender and be like, you know what? I'm not perfect. People don't expect me to. Nobody even knows who I am. Yeah, some people do. That's great. But it's this whole thing between like, I'm so important or I'm not important at all. It's this constant thing that I know a lot of people oscillate between as well. And it's the whole self-ego thing and existence and trying to be passionate and honest and a creator and somebody who cares, but also not wanting to come, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. My guides help me remember that when I sink into the love that I have for being somebody who has passion and has all these different things available to me. And I mentioned this at the beginning of this recording, but when I'm not sounding like somebody who's like been chain smoking for eons and has this rasp, and I do have a singing voice and I like to sing and I'd like to improve my singing voice to be able to share it with people and play instruments and continue to make the artwork and be more refined in my delivery of podcast style information. But the whole thing around like, well, I have to do it this way, I can't share how I look. No, that's bullshit too. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be, as an add-on to this thought, there was a time when I was like, okay, well, I can't get like dolled up and wear makeup because then people will assume that I want the attention and I'm trying to look good for the camera. So then I was like, okay, I just got to wear sweatpants and be very like stripped down. All of that is insane. I'm both. Sometimes, and I'll just to multitask, I was like, okay, we'll just record the videos when you're moved to record them. And so you end up seeing, what's insane about them is that if you have a discerning eye or you've known a woman and cared about her in her cyclical nature in any capacity, you know that a woman physically looks and acts different at different points throughout her cycle. And it's easy to tell where I'm at in my cycle when you look at my videos or scroll through the list, just like this, the puffiness in my face and how symmetrical it appears, my attitude, my overall energy, is very palpable. And wait, why was I saying this? It'll come back to me. Give me a sec. Oh, yeah, so part of the natural flow of this channel has me being wearing, I wear comfy stuff. If I am wearing work attire, I record. But if I want to, if I'm just at home, but I want to look cute, then I do that too, because it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with being attractive. There's nothing wrong with being unattractive. There's nothing wrong with not caring about how you look. There's nothing wrong with caring a lot about how you look. And I happen to like the way I look. I happen to have been through a hell of a battle, despite how a lot of people, I get told all the time that I'm beautiful. All the time. All the time. In fact, I could tell you there's a certain closet of experiences in my mind that I'm like, this is very controversial territory if I should ever talk about this, but I have this very interesting lens on what it's like to be treated as a beautiful woman in many different situations, and the notion of pretty privilege and, the dark feminine and the abuse of pretty privilege, all these different things where I'm like, I have firsthand experience into so much around, what this is and what this means. Except it's very, just I get very, I'll table that. I'm sharing that I have that. How could I not? We all have deep closets of experience based on certain things that only somebody in our position has access to. And I'm not saying I'm the only person who has experience with that, but we all have subcategories. We all have different labels. We all have different experiences that are about the way that we show up in the eyes of others, that categorize in a lot of cases how we're treated. I think about, anybody who's an immigrant or a person of color in the United States, how you're discriminated against. A lot of people come together and talk about those experiences. Not that those experiences are all the same when you start to break down, but you get my point. And so I have a lot to say, and I'm sure that all of it will come in time when it's meant to be shared, but it's like there's nothing wrong with wanting to appreciate that I like the way that I, so despite being, there's a lot of people, I just know this, right? A lot of people could say this about a lot of people, whatever. There's a lot of people who a person would look at and be like, what do you have to be, insecure about or unhappy about? You appear to have it all. And you can't say that about anybody. You can't say that about anybody. Every human experiences certain fundamental things. They're just in different, sheep's clothing when it comes to the manifestation of all souls paths on earth. Nobody walks the same one. That's the point. That's why we have a collective consciousness to come back to and rely on each other. Trust the voices from people whose experience is very different from yours. Not because they're better and they deserve more time on the platform, but because they also count, This is where we get into all these different types of things where certain men who are really, really offended by feminism are like, well, they're going to take over. It's like, nope, we just want to also talk. And I know that there's a lot of men who get that. But it's the same with anybody who thinks that there's not enough room or seats at the table, basically. And it sounds so political. It is political, but it's also energetic. That's where I'm like, okay, so when I say that and someone's like, yeah, I'm going to raise good kids who want to create good social justice. Yes, that's noble. Do that. But don't forget that you don't have to do that in order to create change. You literally, as a micro of the energetic machine that constitutes everything in reality, have the ability to make a good child out of the present moment. You can birth a child that's going to go on to be a good person one day when they grow up. You can make that out of the present moment just by dialing up your own energetic frequency with the power of keying into something positive, something that vibrates at a higher frequency to augment your cell in the graph paper of the cosmic quilt. It's just, if you're in a sea of miserable people, and even if one person does that, the little light blinks on, boop, 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 sends out ripples. Or like dolphins using echolocation. So if what I say resonates with you, and you feel like you're a person who has always wanted to be able to do this, sometimes you get very isolated from other people who can support and help you do this, because you're meant to be the cell phone tower of your area, and I hate that analogy, and I'm sorry to use it. But it just means that your signal, even though it's hard to do, when you hold and maintain it, it is more powerful because it's, physically, literally, higher waveform vibration. If you can sustain and hold it by supporting yourself, validating your own experience and understanding it with your conscious connection to a framework of ideology that helps you validate, the energy that your body's processing, and then increase your ability to do so. You might be doing that physically far away from people in your waking life, but that's what the internet's good for. We can connect to people's energies remotely, and this is why it's important to find people who you feel like you connect with, even if it is on the internet, not to say anything about anything, getting involved with anything, whatever, I don't know. I don't need to contextualize that. Stay away from sketchy stuff. There it is. That's the warning. But use discernment. Use discernment, and definitely at whatever cost, let's try to remain open to listening to our fellow humans and hearing them out and understanding that we're all different for a reason, not so we can fight about it, but so we can create like beautiful strands in a braid. Okay? We're like a static cable that's fritzing out, and all these different braids want to move smoothly through time and space, and they're fritzing out because they're being hijacked by all these frequencies. And so, let's key into love and make that a dominant vibration. I'm so happy that I got this out this evening, and I'm going to go to sleep. All right. God bless everybody, and I hope people are feeling safe and well, and I hope that if you're not, at least some of anything that I said helped you feel a little bit more that way, and I'm praying for you. So continue to try to latch on to as close to a good feeling thought as you can, and all of the ones that you do have, water them, let them grow, let them be important. Let that stuff roll off your back. You can wipe the slate clean. You're not irresponsible for clocking out mentally at the end of the day and letting yourself be in peace. And you also owe it to yourself to do that in a way that exists beyond all of the substances that people just decompress with and unwind with, and plugging into mindless brainwashing machines. You owe it to yourself to start to learn how to decompress in a way that's healthy for you. And unfortunately, a lot of us don't want to admit to ourselves that we have unhealthy relationships to certain kinds of decompressing methods. I'm not saying you have to abstain from absolutely everything, but I'm saying it's a day and an age where moderation is hard to come by, and when it's not entirely there and things threaten our stability, which the grid is being rocked right now, right? And they say, right, if people didn't have a problem with alcoholism before the pandemic, maybe they did after. Not uncommon. There's certain ripples in the collective right now that can tip us into problematic spaces, even if we were towing the line for a very long time. This is one of these do or die breaking points in our collective where it's really important to try to encourage other people and be kind. Because when they say everybody's fighting a tough battle, a lot of people have never been fighting a tougher one. And I got full body, oh my God, the biggest wave of energy moved through my lower extremities all the way down to my toes when I said that, like a huge wave of like chills. It was just this burst of energy because that's incredibly true, okay? Like it's dire. I'm not trying to inspire fear, but I want people to hear the tone in my voice because I'm telling you, it's going to be okay. I know this. And if you can believe it and start to maneuver something for yourself where despite whatever is possibly happening, you can start to shift into your own ability to co-create even the next, 10 seconds and then go from there. Like it will be okay. And my intensity is more so about the depth of my passion and my belief that there is a winning battle throughout everything that has ever seemed bleak for anybody ever. And I will say this as a closing thought, and I know I've said that probably 20,000 times throughout the entire reading. It's 111 as I look up. Beautiful minute to end on. I had a reading one time about past lives, and I was told that I've had tons of past lives, more than I'd even want to know. And what does that even mean? Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Simultaneous selves, one might say. It's not that they've been the longest lives, but they've been short lives in many cases with deep, deep suffering. And there's like a blueprint in our DNA and in our consciousness when that's the case. And there's also long lives where things weren't completed. And I know who I am today, and I know what I'm doing, and I know how to speak. I'm also remembering that in this life, but because of that culmination. And eventually I'll give sessions to help people understand the same. And I love you. Have a great day.